Hey, what's up? Apex Season 11 drops today, and in honor of that, I wanted to give you my top 10 tips that I believe every beginner should know. I myself am level 256, and that's not crazy high, but I consulted a level 500 when coming up with this list just to make sure I'm giving you the best information possible. Tip number 1 is to use the firing range. I feel like so many people avoid using the firing range because it can be a little bit boring. I firmly believe that the firing range is the number 1 tool that can help you improve at a quicker rate. Having free access to every gun in the game at your disposal and being able to use them and practice with them all at the same time can really help you focus in on what weapons and abilities work best for you. Not only that, but the firing range can be an essential tool in helping you warm up before actual competitive games. Now, the reason this is tip number 1 is because I see so many top streamers and top players at Apex use the firing range before they ever go into any sort of competitive game, but I never see any low-level players do this. And I'm not saying that all correlation equals causation, but what I am saying is that going to the firing range and practicing isn't going to do you any harm before jumping in a game with actual people. Tip number 2 is to make the dummies come alive. All you have to do is go into the firing range, go to the cave on the left, and then grapple up to where I'm showing you. Once you're there, you have to crouch, look down, switch characters. Once you come out of that cave, all the dummies will be alive and they'll be shooting at you. This can help take your practice and your aim lab simulator whatever to the next level because you're actually shooting at something that's shooting back at you. And while they may be bots and they don't have the best aim, it's absolutely better than shooting a still target because in a real game, nobody's just going to be standing there for you to shoot. Tip number 3 is to try landing at different locations. What I see too often is people who just start playing Apex get in a groove of landing at a location that they like. And while there's absolutely nothing wrong with learning a location well, finding out where the weapons are, where your favorite angles are, and everything about a location, it certainly helps as the ring closes and late game sets on to know more about other locations around the map. So what I would recommend you doing is taking at least a few rounds during your playing session to try to drop some locations that you've never dropped before. You're most likely going to die pretty quickly. It's going to be hard to find stuff. You're not going to know the right angles, but it will certainly help you long-term learn the maps and figure out, hey, when I'm rotating from this location to the next, here's where I want to be. These are the angles. This is where I'm going to find the best cover. This is the best place to back out of a fight. Here's where to hide, etc. There are so many different benefits to learning the entire map a little bit rather than learning one specific location on a map a lot. Tip number 4 is probably my number 1 pet peeve in Apex Legends, and that is communication. Too many people, especially if you're getting random teammates, just refuse to communicate whatsoever. And this is really detrimental to your team. Even if your only tool for communication is the ping wheel, use it. This can be essential in helping your teammates know where you're going, what you're doing, what's going on around you, so that they can play with you as a team. Now, obviously, the step up from this is being able to use a microphone and actually communicating with your team with your actual voice. But that's not always essential, and it doesn't have to always be used in order for you to be able to communicate with your team in an effective manner. So make sure you learn and know how to use the ping wheel so that your team knows what you're doing, where you're going, so that you can actually play as a real team. Now, tip number 5 goes hand in hand with tip number 4, and it is probably my number 2 pet peeve, especially with dealing with random teammates, and that is stay with your team. It is essential, especially if you're playing ranked, that you stay with your team, because being able to push a team with 3 people is so much better than pushing a team by yourself. Because when you or your teammate pushes an entire squad by yourself, not only will you probably lose that 1v3, but that means you leave your teammates down a man and now they have to come try to save you and it's a 2v3. Because of that, unless you're just absolutely just trying to meme, do not leave your teammates for any reason whatsoever. You jumped into the game as a squad, play the game as a squad. Tip number 6 is something that I use to really help me improve my personal gameplay, and that is solo queuing duos. So all you have to do in order to do that is click on duos and then click the little checkbox at the top that says don't fill. Basically, all this will do is it'll launch you into a game of duos, but it will not add a teammate for you. This trick helps with so many different things, because you don't have to worry about your teammate. All you're worried about is keeping yourself alive. I would highly recommend, if you're solo queuing in duos, just drop hot. Drop the hotspot, drop with other teams, find somewhere that you're gonna get into a fight instantly, because that will help you learn the most the fastest. Now, you're probably asking yourself, why on earth would I do that? That just seems like I'm asking to die quickly. And yes, that's the exact point that I'm trying to make. your games will be much shorter, but you will learn how to loot faster, you will learn how to fight more effectively, and you will be able to join another game even quicker. So all this means is that you're learning the intricacies of Apex at a faster rate because you're not landing as far away from people as you possibly could and then looting for 20 minutes and then getting into the top 5 and losing your first fight. Tip number 7 is the thing that I am the absolute worst at, and that is learning when to back out of fights. Not every fight has to be a full head-on octane push right into the enemy. In fact, a lot of times it is very strategic to fight a little bit, back up and heal, and then push really hard. I don't know why that sounds like I'm having a baby or something. That was weird. Let me rephrase that. Sometimes it can be very beneficial for you to push out of a fight to back up so that you can heal before re-engaging the enemy and then having the upper hand. Now, in order to do this, it can be a little difficult because not only do you have to monitor the fight that's going on in front of you, but you also have to monitor your health, your shields, and make sure that you don't go down, because if you're down, you can't really back out of the fight. And it defeats the entire purpose of being able to back out, heal, and then come back in. Tip number 8 is going to take some practice. It's going to take some trial runs. It's probably going to take some time in the firing range, but that is choose a complementary. I don't know why I can't say that word. Choose a character that complements your play style. I have a ton of friends that play very differently. A lot of the friends I have play very passive. They stay back. They try to shoot the enemy from a long ways away. Some of the friends I have are very aggressive. They like to really push hard, fight the enemy as quickly as possible, and surprise them. And both of these playstyles in different situations work very well. However, they really only work well if you have a character that complements that type of playstyle. If you like to push really hard and go fast and then attack the enemy and surprise them, a character like Octane or Valkyrie or somebody who can move very quickly and can push that fight could be a very good complementary character for you. If you're somebody that likes to stay back a little more and maybe tries to support the team, a legend like Lifeline or Gibby could be a very good choice for you. Tip number 9, however, is to be adaptable. I've seen too many people pick one singular legend and only learn how to play that legend. And then they jump into a game with some random, somebody else picks that legend before they can, and all of a sudden they don't know what to do, and they're no longer as useful to the team. So while I would definitely recommend while you're beginning to pick someone that complements you and practice a lot with them, I would also recommend at least learning how to play a couple other legends so that if your legend does get picked, you're not stuck up the creek without a paddle. You have another option, you have a backup to go to. So let's say hypothetically your main is Bloodhound, you're an intel character, but somebody else has already picked Seer and somebody has already picked Valkyrie. So you're the third pick. It might be beneficial for you to either A, choose a more aggressive character, somebody like Octane that could complement Valkyrie, or pick a support character like Gibby or Lifeline that can help support the team as a whole, since you don't necessarily need Bloodhound's intel. Having said that, if you're still just trying to learn the character, figure out the nitty-gritty of Apex, go ahead and pick your character. It absolutely doesn't hurt. What I am saying is that later on, it might be worth it to learn other characters so that you can be adaptable and help your team overall, not necessarily just help you figure out the game. Tip number 10, the most important tip, is to move. Always be moving. I don't care if you're shooting, I don't care if you're looting, I don't care if you're teabagging somebody, you better be moving no matter what. There's absolutely never a time in Apex that you should be standing still. If you're not moving, then you are playing the game wrong. You just got a full squad wipe and you're looting people's boxes. Move, strafe left to right. It makes no sense to stand there being still, you could get sniped. The converse of that, you're on top of a really tall tower sniping at people. Move, strafe left to right. There's probably a sniper watching you too. The only time it is acceptable to stand still is if you had a heart attack and you're dead in your chair. That's it. No other exceptions besides that one. Now, all jokes aside, that is a really good tip and definitely take that to heart. If you're interested, check out this video here where we play an entire game of Apex and win only using grenades.